Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. I've been watching this thing on Netflix called Bad Sports. Bad Sports, and it's about people who cheat at sports, like point shaving and stuff. And I just got through this one episode that was very depressing about a guy who went around murdering horses. Very, very, very expensive horses he would murder for rich people, so they could collect the insurance. And the way he did it was very Boardwalk Empire. You'd be very impressed with the method that he used. Okay, there it is. That's what she said. You see how, the formula, tragedy plus time equals comedy? With all things, eventually as you get into the rear view, things are funny. Like even those idiotic, stupid knockdown, drag out sessions we had with Neiman's. Over time, they become hilarious because he was
sorry. Those were. It hasn't taken a lot of time for that. That was early.
I know around your house, it was kind of a funny thing to go, why is that funny? Why is that funny? I know that was like a thing around your house for a minute when the kids were in high school.
You're talking to the who is this Andy Kaufman guy, okay? There's nothing. There's nothing.
The suits always suck. I mean, I think it's true of every... Oh, that's funny.
Okay.
I'm ready when you are.
Ready? It's the Brad and Britt cast. Thank you for joining us here. A lot on our little agenda today.
So many things.
And so let me throw some balls out onto the floor. You pick one up. We'll run with it. We'll drop it and move on. Number one, The Wizard of Dr. Oz. Number two, stupid abortion questions. Or three, George Wallace and Strom Thurmond moved to California.
As intriguing as number three is, I do want to talk about Dr. Mehmet Oz and his political aspirations. Brad, go ahead.
Well, okay. So I'm sure you know by now that he is in the process of declaring himself a candidate for the Republican nomination for Senate in the state of Pennsylvania, where he really doesn't live. He just used his in-laws' address for the last few months or the last year to reestablish residence. He went to medical school, I think, at Penn.
Oh, wow.
So he's playing the, I really love Pennsylvania. It's great to be home again. It's all shit. It's just crap.
Does he get the Eagles hat on yet, or is he going with the Steelers? Which way is he going on that?
Oh, does he get one of those hats that's like 50% Eagles, 50%
my God.
Steelers?
If you'd like to get murdered, if you want to get murdered by both fan bases, absolutely put that on, Dr. Oz. Absolutely.
Is there anything funnier than that? The half and half thing?
A house divided.
Like the guy in the Dr. Pepper commercial, right? I think there's face painted halfway. Yeah,
that's correct.
Right. But he's lived, of course, for the last, forever in northern New Jersey, right across from New York City. But that doesn't matter. Okay, but forget that. We've had other senators from states where they're not living. Okay, that's the least of the.
What about Robert F. Kennedy? What about that? What about Hillary Clinton? What about Hillary?
Exactly. So that's not the horse you want to ride on.
No,
But it's just worth mentioning.
Yeah, it is.
Because obviously there are a shortage of actual people who are, say, from Pennsylvania or Pennsylvanians.
Yeah.
They needed to have this guy come in there and run. The number one reason is he's a quack. He's a phony. He's a fraud. He's a scamster. He's Alex Jones with a medical degree. He's been using that show on TV to sell crap for 13 or 14 years. He just has. And he's been nailed by other members of the profession. I don't mean the reality show TV profession.
The medical profession.
The medical profession.
Actual doctors.
Right. Right. And number three, he's already a complete fraud for several reasons. But I'll just start with the fact that last night, again, I do this for you, Britt. I do this for you. I happened to be doing a Chan scan in the 9 o'clock hour, and there he was with Hannity. There he was.
Sure.
And that's where he made his first appearance following all the press reports. That's the first interview that he did. And if ever an appearance like that was either scripted or he knew the questions and he knew there wasn't going to be anything even remotely questionable, he knew this was all going to be about comparing his rise to Trump, how great of a person he is, and blah, blah. It's just Hannity at his most obsequious worst. But here's the problem. He should have gone on the Tucker Carlson show. And here's why. Because Dr. Oz and Tucker Carlson have a real similar thing in their background. It's not really that far in their background. Tucker Carlson married into the, I guess it's a fortune, it must be, the Swanson TV dinner fortune. And I don't know if they still exist, but they obviously made a lot of money for a lot of decades. The family is rich. Well, guess what? Guess what Dr. Oz did? Dr. Oz married into the Asplunda tree service maintenance.
Asplund?
Asplund, right. And if you think that that's just a couple of trucks in your neighborhood that you see, it's all up and down the East Coast. It's right. It's about a $4 billion company.
Jesus Christ.
That family was one of the top 130 richest private or family fortunes in
34,000 employees, Brad.
Right.
34,000 human beings work for this. Guess where their headquarters are, Brad?
I think is it in New Jersey or Pennsylvania?
It's in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, where Dr. Mehmet Oz is running for the United States Senate as a Republican.
Right. So at least it wouldn't be an out-of-state contribution, right? But I just, don't you think that he should have gone on with Tucker?
Sure.
And here's what I saw, and here's what you're going to see. And by the way, he when he finally got down to being asked anything about his politics, which is the last thing he really wants to talk about,
of course,
he's fully coming from the "I'm not a politician. I'm tired of this country tearing itself apart." The coronavirus response was mishandled, although it is true that Dr. Oz was an early proponent of hydroxychloroquine, whatever the fuck it was.
Hydroxychloroquine, Brad. Don't pretend like you don't know.
And it's people are saying that it was he who may have been the one who convinced Donald Trump to go all in on that early on. But let's not, that's the past, Britt. We don't need to talk about the past, right? We just
are we now? I'm sure it came up in his hard-hitting interview. Did Sean Hannity ask Dr. Mehmet Oz, does he think that Donald Trump legitimately lost the election in 2020? I'm sure that came up, didn't it?
By the way, of course, that would be one of the questions you would ask.
You got to ask him.
Do you believe that Joe Biden is the duly elected president of the United States and that Donald Trump was not robbed of it? You have to ask him that question.
You do.
And he can go on Fox. He can go on there 150 times between now and the primary, and he probably will. They'll have him on over and over and over again. It may cut into the Ron DeSantis appearances. There's only so much airtime on that channel.
That's
for
unfortunate.
People that they want to suck up to for the future. But Dr. Oz will definitely get his share.
Now, he's going to have to shit on Dr. Fauci at some point, isn't he? That's part of the Fox? He's going to have to do that at some point, isn't he?
I think you're right. I don't think there's any question about that. Yeah, you got to be on board with that. But I think you're going to see the first person, and remember, he's got all the money he's ever going to need to run. This is not going to be an issue. He doesn't have to sit there in a room with a phone and a phone book calling up friends for cash. It's not going to work that way at all. But what I heard on Tuesday was a guy who either started to study or already has memorized the governor-elect of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin handbook, which is this, which is in the primary, you kind of suck up to Trump, but you don't talk about him much, but you don't ever cross him. And you hope you're going to get his endorsement, because the guy that Trump had endorsed had to drop out because apparently he beat the shit out of his wife and is exposed as a wife beater. Okay?
I did see that. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Right. So that's probably the reason that Dr. Oz saw an opening to get in there.
Right.
Because the non-wife beater, famous person, celebrity reality show host with a lot of advanced degrees slot opened up. And so he went in there. So if Dr. Oz can thread that needle and win that primary, and I don't know whether he's going to, I have no idea who the other people are that are running on the Republican side in Pennsylvania. Don't know. I have no idea. But if he gets through that, then he will do what Youngkin did in the general election, which is essentially pretend to be 100% at arm's length from Trump. Trump will probably, for sure, stay out of the state. He will not be welcome there. But wink, wink, Dr. Oz will be the Trump candidate.
And all the Trump policies, basically, he'll basically carry all the Trump. And he again, if he does the Youngkin thing, he'll go to some middle school library and pull out some filth and stomp on it. Hopefully that'll be something that Mehmet Oz does.
Social issues, absolutely, of course.
The Parents' Bill of Rights, Brad. Don't forget the Parents' Bill of Rights. You have to. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing, but you have to champion it. Just like critical race theory. We got to get rid of critical race theory, even though it's not being taught anywhere. You got to do it.
Name that came up in Virginia that won't be recycled across the country, I'm sure, by Republican candidates who don't want to be seen as 100% suck-ups to Trump, but they can't piss off the morons out there who still think Trump is the president.
Correct.
The election stolen from him. So here we go with Dr. Oz. I don't know. I mean, he obviously, this is another guy who's great on TV. Yeah. He's a great interview.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
The word articulate doesn't even begin to describe how clever he is and how smart he is. But when a guy says, and this was part of his opening benediction last night on Tuesday with Hannity, I'm not running for myself. I'm running for the people. I'm running for the country.
Stop it.
This populist bullshit. All this, but here's a nugget. Here's a very Trumpian nugget because I've read about 8 articles. I wanted to make sure. He apparently told the staff of this show, which has been on, 13, 14 years.
This is all Oprah's fault.
No, he told them 15 minutes before he was about to make the announcement. So they had no idea. So
even Brian Kelly at Notre Dame gave his kids more notice than that.
Right. At least Brian Kelly's going to a gig that he's going to get for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Oh,
so this is what the Republican Party is down to. They have to get, kind of washed up, unqualified celebrities, to run for office to try to overcome whatever it is that they carry with them, which is no policies, nothing to help people. It's just opposition, and he's going to be just another one, I think.
Feels like it, and I don't know. He may be cast by the wayside.
You never know. You don't know.
Well, there may be, again, despite everything that's happened, there may be something in his background that may be dug up that may be embarrassing to him. That he doesn't make it down the aisle. I'm just saying. I mean, he's been a public figure for a while, but things have a way of getting.
He's had shit. All this fraud. Again, what am I thinking? Fraud would stop a Republican from getting nominated to high office, fleecing people out of their money? No, of course. Excuse me. Can I punch myself for even thinking that that's possible? What am I doing?
I heard that Oz University ripped some people off. I'm not sure. I'm not really.
Yeah.
I used to, I want to do story number 3 about the George Wallace and Strom Thurmond walk into a bar thing. When we were on the radio, I would do rather, I guess, what you could typify or you could kind of quantify as esoteric imitations. And some people could say, well, when you're doing Strom Thurmond, I mean, the guy is obviously dead. He's not actually in the news. And I started, after a while, I was like, well, it's right. It's not very current. That's not good. But then I'm watching Saturday Night Live. They're doing the fucking Dionne Warwick show. And then they're doing like this season. And they did a thing based on Bone Thugs and Harmony. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I wasn't as uncurrent as I thought I was.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold it. She's still alive.
Yeah, she is.
And she was actually on the show.
But I understand that. But first of all, she didn't know she was alive until last Thursday. And then Bone Thugs and Harmony, 3 members of Bone Thugs and Harmony may actually be dead. So I'm not really sure about this. Yes, Strom Thurmond and George Wallace walk into a bar. That is your third story.
Well, actually, it wasn't walking into a bar. They moved to California.
My bad.
We have the first city in the country in a long time to declare this. It's one step ahead of secession.
Yeah.
The city is called Oroville, California. Oroville. It looks like it's about 150, 200 miles north of Sacramento, home of Little Rush before he went national.
Yes, it's another imitation I can do of a dead guy, folks.
Right. They have declared themselves, Oroville, to be a constitutional republic.
What does that mean?
6-1 in the city council. The city of Oroville will not enforce orders issued by the state and federal governments that they think are overreaching or clearly violate our constitutionally protected rights. The last straw was, you got it right, the vaccine mandate for students over 12 introduced by the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, last month. The mayor says he's not anti-mask or other people getting vaccinated, but vaccine mandates are crossing the line. What line? You mean the line that Dwight Eisenhower crossed when he said everybody in this fucking country is getting a polio vaccine?
Right, that's the one.
Is that the line? Is every local school system in America over the line by requiring kids to be vaccinated before they're allowed into kindergarten? Or
you can't talk about that. We've had vaccine mandates, and even I go back to people who, again, I assume that you listen to every single podcast we do, but if you haven't, the state of Mississippi doesn't even have a religious exemption for kids getting shots to go to public school. They just don't. You have to get them. I don't give a shit if you're Pentecostal, Presbyterian, Lutheran, or some other Unitarian. You got to get the fucking shot to go to public school. But in this particular case,
we have referenced this a couple times in the past. It's the famous Jacobson Supreme Court ruling from 1905. I think this was in Boston, right? I think it was in Boston where they wanted everybody to get a smallpox vaccine. It ended up in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that the city of Boston was well within its limits to tell everyone in the city that they had to get vaccinated. And by the time the guy who filed the suit got to court, I mean, he'd already had it and he'd actually recovered.
Oh,
okay. But
I was hoping he died because that'd make a better story.
Yeah, it would have been better.
It would be if he croaks. It's a much better story. So they are. I guess they're now an entire city or town of sovereign citizens. Is that what we're basically saying about these people in Oroville, California?
It's only 20,000 people.
Yeah, 20,000 humans.
The city is split about 50-50 Republicans and Democrats. This probably doesn't have any binding legal authority.
No.
The state of California still rules over the schools, and the city officials say they're not really moving towards seceding. It's just kind of a good idea. It's kind of a cute thing.
It's a good idea.
Right. But they have high COVID infection rates there, and they have low vaccination rates because they're all about freedom in Oroville. They're all about freedom there.
Not to be mistaken with Orrville, Ohio, which I believe is the home of Smuckers. Am I correct in saying that Orrville, Ohio is the...
I don't think there's an O in there. I think it's just Orville.
Just R. O-R-R-V-L.
Orville. Yeah. But a perfectly understandable bit of confusion there.
I could buy a vowel. If you would, let's talk about abortion, which I'm bored silly with, and everybody else is too, but women are having their rights yanked away from them, which is going to lead in more of them dying. But yes, abortion, which was, I believe, your middle story there.
Yeah, stupid abortion question. When I saw this yesterday, and I read a long piece about it, and then it was actually expressed today in court. And the basis of the state of Mississippi and their Solicitor General or whoever was arguing the case on behalf of the state of Mississippi. Notice I didn't say the great state of Mississippi.
Thank God you didn't.
Okay. One of the bases is that 50 years ago, when Roe versus Wade was decided, almost 50 years ago, right? 48 years ago, women did not have near the number of choices in their lives. And if they got pregnant, there was no doubt that that would change their lives and make their career choices practically impossible. They might have to drop out of school. Their life would be irretrievably changed in a direction that they could not imagine. So therefore, abortion was a sensible alternative for these women. But now, 48 years later, women are free in so many other areas of life. The country is opened up in so many ways.
No, we're going to change
there's
that.
no reason for, I swear to God, Britt, this is an argument.
That's so
This
good.
is the argument that they made. And they made it to Amy Coney Barrett. And they did that on purpose, of course, because she gets to say back to them, you're right. I have 7 kids and I'm on the Supreme Court. Right. What about you? Huh? There's no reason. And then they expand this out to, you know what? You don't have to keep the baby.
Oh, yeah, and give it up for adoption.
You don't have to keep the baby argument. And all these other kinds.
Because it was illegal to keep the baby in 1973. What the fuck you think? You could keep what? That's the stupidest shit ever. Come on, guys.
No, you didn't have to keep the baby in 19. You meant that you could give it up then too. But
well, of course, but it wasn't. You had the option all the whole time. That hasn't changed. That's never changed.
What are you bringing up facts here? Stop it.
I'm so tired of this shit. And this is what I love, because they're making the arguments. It looks like they're going to chip away. But, the conservatives on the Supreme Court, they're just not so sure they should do away with Roe versus Wade completely. They're just not, we're going to tiptoe. We're going to make it so that it's completely like got no teeth. It's going to be all but dead, but we like a little zombie ruling in there. We want it to be sort of the law of the land. Well, if you guys are going to have the balls, go ahead and get rid of it completely. I don't understand what the big holdup is here. Honest to God, if you guys have your first in a generation opportunity to do away with this and to turn back the clock to, back alley abortions, I don't know why you're not jumping at the opportunity, guys. I don't know why you're getting a religion all of a sudden and backing off. That's what kills me.
Right. This isn't like hidden information or anything, but a lot of these states that have moved in this direction to restrict access, they've been open and they've been honest, and they have said, now that we have 3 new Supreme Court justices, appointed by Trump, now we go to court.
We're driving hard to the hoop. We're going hard to the hoop. That's exactly what they're
admitting that. And Justice Sotomayor made a speech today, and you can hear it or you can read it, but she made the best point of all, which is if they decide to overturn this law after this ruling after 48 years, and it has to do with the fact that there are 3 new justices on the bench, then it will prove once and for all that the Supreme Court is nothing more than another cheap political institution that is subject to the whims of the moment. And the justices and lawyers like to say that the law should not be decided that way, that you have the ability to go to court and have things heard in order to cool down these ideas and have them heard in a rational way. But if you're just going to toss it right out because you've got 3 justices who maybe their personal feelings are this way, it's over. I mean, there have been a couple bad decisions in our lifetime, and there were ones in the 19th century that were bad. But this one really, really smells because in the hearings that each of these justices, they were just judges then, right? Before they were justices, when they're asked about, they all go, "Oh, we respect the fact that Roe versus Wade is the law of the land. It's established law." Well, so they lied, right? But you can't do anything about that. And then I think it was Kavanaugh today who played the card of, well, there's nothing in the Constitution about abortion. It doesn't take a side one way or the other. So therefore, we shouldn't be in the business at all of deciding anything about it. States have at it. Go for it.
This was always Judge Rehnquist's wet dream.
Right. And I thought, wait a minute, how does that stand up to scrutiny?
Anything?
What about slavery? What did the Constitution specifically say?
What does the
Constitution
say about pornography or the internet or a car or anything?
But let me finish here, because slavery was an issue that was so not talked about that we had to have a war over it. 75 years after the country was formed. And of course, the answer is that there was a big fight at the beginning of the country when they wrote this. And there was a big war of words. If there would have been talk radio or the internet or Twitter or whatever, it would have gone back and forth over whether the Constitution itself was a pro-slavery document. I mean, after all, they gave the southern states 3/5 of a vote of a person credit for every slave that they had. That seems like a pretty pro-slavery thing there, right?
Seems like it.
Although the Southerners would say, "Oh, it should have been one whole vote, right? 3/5 wasn't good enough." Or how about this one? They allowed those fugitive slave laws that allowed people to cross state lines to grab slaves who had escaped. Okay,
this is why the Second Amendment was actually created. That's what the militia was.
Exactly right.
That's exactly what the militia was. It was, they wanted a way to go back and get their property back.
Right, and so the high-minded part of the Constitution that talks about freedom and things that just did not apply to this group of people. It just didn't apply, and so it had to be adjudicated not only on the battlefield but through amendments. And I think the logic on abortion should be the same thing. Yes, there wasn't something specifically saying we're pro-slavery in the Constitution, but it was there, and there wasn't something specific that talked about abortion. Who talked about it? That it wasn't going to be a thing. Obviously, it couldn't have been. But clearly, the right to not have the government jump into your pants over everything was implied and inferred 25 different ways. And the only thing that the justices and the anti-choice people have to say is, well, because it isn't specifically assigned to the federal government, every state should get to decide. And that's the base. And this is basically a states' rights argument. Oh, we're back to states' rights again. Oh, well, we've made a lot of progress, haven't we? Every time states' rights is the basis of an argument, it really ends up working out well, doesn't it?
Because where you're born should absolutely set to die for how you are. Women in New York should be completely different than women in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, or Florida. See, that's bullshit. That's essentially what you're saying. Is I'm sorry that you were born in Little Rock, but you're fucked. Sorry, that's just how it's going to have to be. So, I mean, that's essentially what these guys are saying. And after all of these years of fighting this, this is the true legacy of Donald John Trump. To all of you assholes who said that people on our side were overreacting when this guy was elected, they were like, oh, we have checks and balances in this country. He's not going to be able to get away with stuff and just do things. This is the legacy of Donald John Trump right here. This was their Trojan horse to sneak this motherfucker in. He got the justices he wanted, and now, as you point out, something that was decided and has been settled law for 48 years is about to go right out the window. It's completely ridiculous. That seems to be where we're headed. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, well, it probably will be that way, but they will try to rhetorically walk the fine line in the middle, because they will not say specifically that abortion is illegal in the United States. They're not going to throw out the actual Roe versus Wade decision. They're going to, in their own way, kind of amend it and say more restrictions can be put on it than what was said 48 years ago, that famous word viability. Well, viability, of course, is open to interpretation, scientific, emotional, religious interpretation. So they've opened the door to that and allowed and will allow every state to make those kinds of decisions. So my longest running, tedious, tired joke about this has always been that if the quote unquote pro-lifers, they should really be the anti-choicers. Stop calling them pro-life. That's what they want to be called. If they had their choice, life would begin when you answered the want ad in New York Magazine. That's how old this joke is.
No, come on, bring that up to you.
So now it's life begins when you swipe whatever direction it
right
is.
It's right on Tinder. Come on now. There you go. Let's move on.
But that's really that's the joke, and
that's when life begins.
As it was then, but that's what this is, because of course 15 weeks is tiny.
Preposterous.
Another state has 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks.
Can I hear 5 minutes? Can I hear 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Can I hear once the sperm leaves the penis? Can I hear? It's preposterous. This is breaking news, so we won't talk much about it because breaking news doesn't really work on a podcast. They have identified, according to health officials in California, the first case of Omicron. It's in California with someone who has travel history with South Africa. So that has happened. Now I can do the smart ass if Rush Limbaugh were alive thing. Well, the only supply chain issue that Joe Biden doesn't have is he's able to successfully offload the Omicron virus. Hubba hubba. That's the only thing he can get from offshore to in the United States. Right there. There you go. Is the Omicron virus.
There it is. So if you were betting on this, and your over and under was Thursday, you had to have bet the under because
under. And if you were betting on New York, you lost. It's California. But people were going for New York, but nope, it was California the whole time. Speaking of assholes, the latest from Mark Meadows, who's a real big asshole, says that another massive asshole he worked for, Donald Trump, tested positive for COVID a few days before the Biden debate. It's a brand new book. And Mark Meadows' book, this is going to be great for you right under the tree. It's called, I have it right here, I'm a Gigantic Dick. Make sure you get that on Amazon through our Amazon store, shop.bradandbritt.com.
So I have a question for you. Is this going to sell more, less, or about the same number of books as the Chris Christie book, which is what, under 3,000?
You're just giving Chris Christie such a hard time. He would have sold a lot more books over that big Black Friday, but the Dallas Cowboy fans were depressed and didn't go to the bookstore and buy a book from one of their fellow fans. That's the problem. They were all very depressed over losing to the Raiders on Thursday, so they didn't rush out and go, I'm going to support my fellow Cowboys fan, Chris Christie, and buy his book. The sales are going to pick up on that thing.
I'm going with Rachel Bade of the Washington Post on this story, which is that Meadows put this out intentionally right now to get you to take your eye off the ball of the fact that he is at some level cooperating and will be giving important, legitimate information, possibly, maybe, about Trump to the House committee. So why not put this out there and we'll talk about this. So I do subscribe to that. And I normally don't go, it's pretty coincidental that this is coming. But in this case, it's not coincidental.
But it also feels like this. I mean,
it works for about a minute.
Well, they're also trying to sell a book too. I mean, they're trying to do that, and it's like I don't want it. Nobody wants to buy Mark Meadows' book. No one does. You're right. As far as it's going to sell less copies than Chris Christie, and this is not a surprising story, correct? You're not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by this. You're not surprised that this dick found out he was COVID positive and still went on with appearances and tried to infect everybody within a 100-mile radius. No, nobody's surprised by that, correct?
I'm shocked. This is the most compassionate, decent man, good father, good upbringing, good parents, and this just seems so un-Donald Trump-like. I just, how could this happen?
They asked, this is a good one. They asked Joe Biden at a presser, they asked about what about this COVID positive test right before the debate. And Joe Biden had the perfect answer. I don't think about the former president. Boom. I mean, come on. How do you do any better than that? Come on.
And you know what the answer to that is? Oh, he's living rent-free inside Biden's head. He's lying, right?
Can I
and
tell
by the
you?
way, there's another cliche that needs to be killed forever. Blank is living rent-free inside of blank's head.
When is the first time you heard that phrase?
I don't know.
I know the millennials have gone nuts with it. They've gone crazy with it. I love the millennials. I think they're very good with the language, and I picked up a lot of their shit. But yeah, this one's dead. This one should die 1,000 deaths as far as living rent free in your head. But I thought it was a pretty good answer from Joe Biden. I just don't think about the old guy. I just I've got my head down and I'm thinking about a lot of other stuff right now. That's essentially and that makes a lot of sense to me right now. Yeah. Are you? I think the markets have settled down a little bit. I don't know how this new stuff about Omicron being spotted in the U.S. No, is it bad? Is it bad? Really?
What does 500 Dow points in a matter of minutes mean to you?
Well,
what happened. Yeah.
Currently,
which when you think of the stupidity, I can't even begin to quantify the stupidity of the most obvious event that you knew was going to happen that was not a surprise. The market as we speak is the Dow is up 71 points. It had been up about 500. So but for nothing changed today. Nothing changed but it doesn't matter. You can't stop people from overreacting, and you can't do this minute by minute, or you'll lose your hair or your mind.
Well, I always love the people, and I'm not going to profess that I know very much about the stock market or anything of the sort. I don't know, and I've certainly don't know as much as you do, et cetera, et cetera. But these people who they have this professorial thing about like, well, this, you got to look at this and you got to look at this, and then all of a sudden they have these idiots, and for no reason at all, they'll just freak the fuck out. Right? They'll just like go nuts, and they're like, very professorial, and we keep things on an even keel. And then all of a sudden, these people supposedly who know so much about finance, world markets, interest rates, they just freak the fuck out for no reason.
See, here's the thing.
Correct.
Nobody knows nothing. Nobody knows nothing.
Thank
William
you.
Goldman, the great screenwriter.
Thank you.
Because what you thought you may have known an hour ago now means nothing for the next 24 hours. Until everyone figures out that because we have one diagnosed case of this kind of the virus, and we still have 247,000 new cases every day of the other one, that really doesn't change anything kind of yet until you know more. But that doesn't matter. It does not matter. It is not relevant. So,
well, I mean, the whole, I think personally, this is me, again, not knowing anything about the stock market, not being an expert in any way, shape, or form. I do S&P index and I just let it roll. That's what I do. And I'm, that's how I rock and roll. Again, this may be a really stupid question and smack me down if it is. Shouldn't Omicron showing up in the United States have been priced into the market? Shouldn't that have been something that was absolutely 100% inevitable?
Yes, but it doesn't matter.
No, okay.
You're right. Are you saying that for a full week,
yes,
with every expert from Mickey Mouse up to Warren Buffett's grandfather saying, well, we don't have any diagnosed cases, but it's probably already here.
It's going to happen.
Everyone agreed, yes, it's already here. And it's just a question of time before we get the first diagnosed case. You would think, yes, everyone realizes that. But then when the reality hits, it's as if, I just dropped an anvil on top of the coyote's head. Boom, there it is again. Damn shit. Never get out of the way.
We had no idea this was going to happen, except we really knew it was going. We just didn't know where. Again, like you said, over under Thursday, and perhaps you pick
This,
New York
and by
over
the way,
California.
remember, this doesn't add. This adds nothing
Correct.
to the actual knowledge base about what needs to be known about the actual ramifications of the new form
Right.
of the coronavirus.
Because we don't have data.
To have a total of 1 on the tote board,
Right.
of course, means nothing. It doesn't tell you how fast it's spreading, or it just doesn't. So it's just, you know what? This is actually too dumb to talk about because it's that dumb. It's that dumb. You know what? You know what should have been? You know what should have happened? The market should have gone up on this news because it should have said, you know what? Fuck, we're America. Yeah, we got a diagnosed case. Fuck
Correct.
you. We got scientists, we got drug companies, we got government scientists working their asses off to try to develop and get ahead of. And you know what? Fuck you, one case. And if tomorrow, if it's 20 or 50, fuck all of you. We can't do that. Can't do it.
But this is the one guy that was going to work at the Wendy's, and now the Wendy's is shut down for another week. So now we're fucked. I mean, there's no way. I don't know how it's going to happen. Speaking. Oh, and you said it was William Goldman that said nobody knows nothing. That was the correct. Is that
wasn't him?
All right, well, no, I'm just saying. We found out recently William Goldman was the guy who wrote the screenplay for All the President's Men. He was the guy.
I'm sure it was him. It was him.
Lord of the Flies.
Nothing.
Yeah, fantastic.
No, that was Golding.
Oh, Golding. Oh, well, there
different
you go.
guy. That's a
totally different. Do we care anything about Chris Cuomo? Do we give a shit about Chris Cuomo?
Well, you know, you're an idiot. What can you say?
That's pretty much that's your take.
You're an idiot because you had to have known.
Yeah.
You had to have known. And this isn't about choosing between your family and your career. That's how it's being positioned by friends of his or those who would defend that he had this horrible choice. You know what? If his fucking brother wasn't such a dick, his brother would have said to him, you know what? I'd love to get your advice, but I know that it would be a compromising thing for you, so stay away from this. But no, so it's I hate to even say it goes back to Mario Cuomo, who did have kind of a Messiah complex himself, but they all got it. And it revealed itself here, and he's going to pay. And I have the perfect solution for CNN at 9 o'clock.
What do you got?
Perfect solution. It's so good that they won't do it because they never listen to me. Rock 92 never listened to me when I said, put the fucking Panthers on the first year. 4 years later, hey, we got a great idea. Let's get the Panthers. And I was long fired. Here's the idea for CNN. You ready? 2 words. Brian Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Let him do that same show that he does at 11 and put it on at 9. It would rock. It would rock.
Yeah.
It'd be just perfect for that network. It would be perfect for the sensibilities. Brian Williams has, come out of whatever fake neutrality that he had as anchorman, and he is who he is. And I think he's great. I think he's brilliant. I've never seen anybody juggle multiple guests better than he does. There's a reason that he's good at this. That's because he's good at it. And he would be perfect at 9 o'clock.
One of the best shows that I ever saw was on before he took over the anchoring of the NBC Nightly News, when he did the news thing on MSNBC way back in the 90s. He did like an 11 o'clock.
That was an attempted straight. He doesn't have to do that. You don't have to pretend that anymore. That's the opinion hour. Yeah, it's okay.
He does it, but he does it in such a way where it is news and information. But then he lets the opinion in. Yeah, he's really good at that. And you're right. That is the way to go.
I have no idea whether he really wants to continue to work or not. Whether he just decided I've got enough money. He got paid big money for the last 4 or 5 years to do this show.
Yeah.
I don't even think he took a pay cut when they yanked him off of the nightly news because he had good lawyers. And they really didn't have good reason to take him off of there. They gave in to political correctness to take him off. So he had them. And so the compromise was, all right, you got to keep working, or we're not going to fire you. Sound familiar? And we're going to put you on a later time slot. Sound familiar?
Sound familiar.
And we're going to put you on cable. And not only did he say, okay, I'll take the money and I'll keep working, but he made it into something. He really, as Simon Cowell would say, he made it his own. And I think that whole vibe that he has there at 11 on MS would be perfect at 9 o'clock on CN. Okay, you see how I abbreviated the? Yeah,
that's good.
You like that?
It saves us a lot of time. I'm glad you did that.
And you know what, Britt? They'll never do it. They will not do it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what I don't think their options are all that great. I think they probably that's not a bad solution, because I think they've kind of pinned themselves in a corner there, and he'd be a guy that would bail them out pretty good.
Yeah,
I would say.
He's got everything going for him. It's like hiring Brian Kelly for your football program.
Well, I don't know.
It's a big name. He's a winner.
It's not that big a home run, Brad. Let's not go crazy.
Right. So,
all right, that's all we have for our Wednesday show.
That's all we got. We will see you again tomorrow. Yeah.
So, as of right now,